Save the date. The Nats Chat end-of-year podcast party will be Friday night, October 10th at Walters. Start time is TBD.
The 2-0 delivery. Swing a line drive left center field. Long chase, Jacob Young on his horse. Back he goes. He makes a running catch. Crosses onto the warning track in left center field. Cade Cavalli has his first 1-2-3 inning, and he's finished 6 innings for the first time in his big league career. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Cavalli ready. The big right-hander winds and he fires. Swing and a miss. He struck him out on a curveball. Cavalli screams into his glove on the way back to the dugout. He has tossed 7 scoreless innings at the Philadelphia Phillies. He finishes the 7th inning with his 5th strikeout. What a performance by Cade Cavalli. He's getting a big ovation from the fans on the first base side.
And welcome to Nats Chat, along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who is at Nationals Park. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. The Nationals starting pitching over the first 3 games of a 4-game series against the National League East leading Philadelphia Phillies at Nationals Park has been outstanding. Saturday, a 2-0 win over the Phillies as Cade Cavalli tossed 7 shutout innings. This off Brad Lord and Mackenzie Gore, each allowing 2 runs in 6 innings in games 1 and 2, respectively. What a job by this Nats rotation in this series so far. The Nats have won 2 of the first 3 games of this series. Now in MLB's 2025 regular season are 50-73. The Phillies have the exact opposite record. They now are a National League East best 70-53. You can find us on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email the show, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. And we have a website that you can check out too, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt. How good has Jose A. Ferrer been since being promoted to the role of Nats closer/ace reliever? He on Saturday tossed 2 scoreless innings for the save, and the 2 scoreless innings came against the heart of the Phillies lineup. More on that in a bit. Left fielder James Wood, he on Saturday had a 2-run double for the game's only 2 runs. Mark, 3 building blocks. Wood, Cavalli, Ferrer, all coming up big. And man, Cade Cavalli, what a job by him in this win on Saturday.
For starters, what you just said, if you can draw up a win right now for this team that means more than just winning 1 game, this is the example of it. Between Cade Cavalli, Jose Ferrer, James Wood, I'll even throw in Dylan Cruz and Brady House, who got on base to score on the James Wood RBI double. So that in itself makes this more than just any old win. Anytime you can beat a good team with those kind of core young players front and center, that's a big day. That's a huge win for the Nationals. But yes, Cade Cavalli, we've tried to temper the enthusiasm a little bit here, not really knowing what this was going to be. We talked about the 6 ERA at AAA and who knows what to expect when he finally gets here. Well, 3 starts in, 2 of them have been outstanding and 1 of them was fine. He's got a 2.20 ERA, 3 starts in. He's throwing strikes. He's got, as we said, the best stuff that I've seen from a starter on this team since Steven Strasburg. There is so much to be excited about. It's still early. He's still got to prove he can stay healthy, that he can stay effective. But for him to do what he did against that particular lineup in this game, that was awfully impressive, and it's hard not to be excited about what we've seen from him so far.
Hard also not to feel good for him. He has been through a lot these last few years. I think everyone has been frustrated with what has happened with him, but you know who probably has been the most frustrated? Him. And so this has got to feel so good for him. And we all wondered. I mean, you look at him, you look at the upcoming starts. This game against the Phillies, his next start is slated to be in a game at the Phillies. And you say, all right, if this guy is legit, he's going to hopefully do all right in these starts. And if he's not so legit, then he could get rocked in these starts. He certainly did not get rocked on Saturday. There were so many good things about this outing for Cavalli. 7 scoreless innings, 5 strikeouts, no walks. He gave up 7 hits, which were 2 doubles and 5 singles. He issued a wild pitch, but he threw a lot of strikes. 90 pitches, 63 strikes, just 27 balls. So you start with the run prevention, no runs. Then you go to the length, 7 innings. Then you go to the fact that he issued no walks. Then you go to the fact that he pounded the strike zone. And then there's this. He was like a magician for so much of his outing. The Phillies had a runner in scoring position in each of the first 4 innings. Cavalli did not have a single clean inning until tossing perfect 6th and 7th innings. But he did a really good job of working his way out of trouble. And he ended his start in strong fashion. Like I said, perfect 6th and 7th inning. So I feel like you can itemize like 7 or 8 things that were really good about this start by Cade Cavalli. 7 or 8 things that are especially encouraging in terms of where he's at right now.
Right. It wasn't necessarily the dominance that we saw against the A's in his debut, because he did have traffic on the bases, but he showed so much in his ability to come through with pitches when he needed to get out of that. And I think the lack of walks is a big part of that. It was all hits. I think it was 5 singles and 2 doubles, but he wasn't helping them at all. They had to earn it. And some of these were little dribblers, infield singles, a ground ball up the middle. There wasn't a whole lot of loud contact. But even when he did face some trouble, he went right after guys. He didn't fall behind the count. He got ahead. He threw strikes. And consider some of the hitters he had to get out with those runners in scoring position. You had Schwarber and Harper back-to-back strikeouts in the first inning. You get Harper on a ground ball to end the third. You get a double play out of Max Kepler in the 5th. And then you get Kyle Schwarber on a ground ball to first base in the 5th with a runner on second. And, you could have thought at that point, okay, that's 5 innings, 71 pitches. Yeah, it's a low pitch count, but these were all high stress innings for the most part. And on a really hot and muggy day, maybe you call it a day there and just be content with it. And then no, what did he do? He came back out for the 6th and threw his first 1-2-3 inning. And he did it so quickly on 7 pitches that he had the option to go back out for the 7th and then got through that 1-2-3 again. So, Max Scherzer always talked about the final 10, 15 pitches of an outing defining your start. What Cade Cavalli did in this one was he got better along the way, and he retired the last 7 batters he faced, and he got through 7 scoreless on 90 pitches. Even when guys like Mackenzie Gore, Jake Irvin, some of these other guys are at their best, they don't get through 7 on 90 pitches. So for him to do that against that particular lineup, it just stands out so much to me, and you can't help but feel good for him, and you can't help but feel good for what perhaps we are starting to see finally come together, not just now, but for the future.
And him ending this start in strong fashion contrasts with what happened in his previous start, the 7-4 loss at the Kansas City Royals on August 11th. 4 runs in 5 innings was the final line. But remember what happened in that game. Cavalli allowed 2 runs in 5 innings. Bottom of the 6th, faced 3 batters, got no outs, including giving up a 2-run homer by Salvador Perez. So that outing did not end in fine fashion. And there was disappointment from all of us with how that outing ended, because he pitched better than 4 runs in 5 innings would say, even though, at the end of the day, that was his final line. In this game, no, he put the exclamation point on the outing. You mentioned the ERA for him over these 3 starts, 2.20, 4 runs in 16 and a third innings, 14 strikeouts versus 4 walks. One thing that he did do for AAA Rochester this season was strike guys out. He had a strikeout rate of 9.97, which is not, spectacular for the minors, but that is pretty good. So he was generating strikeouts, even though he was giving up a bunch of runs down there. And the strikeouts have carried over here, at least so far over these 3 starts. He's generating strikeouts.
He also wasn't walking guys at AAA. The damage was from hits, and we're seeing the same thing here. The command has been very good, keeping the ball in the strike zone, getting ahead in the count. And he has, obviously, the stuff. He's got 3 potentially elite pitches, fastball, curveball, changeup, to be able to get hitters out. And, when he needed it, he humped up. He got to 100 to strike out Bryce Harper, but he also stayed enough in control and had the ability to get ground balls when he needed them, got some pop-ups. And I'm so glad that Miguel Cairo let him go back out there for the 7th. Even if it hadn't gone well, I still think it would have been worthwhile. The momentum was on his side. Here was a chance to really put an emphatic stamp on this game and really the 3 games as a whole. To go out and do that, the crowd was into it. You saw his emotion on that final strikeout to end his day. That was really nice to see, and I was glad to see him get the opportunity to do that because he deserved it. He earned the right to go back out there for the 7th.
So you look at Cavalli, what he has coming up. I mentioned this. His next start, nothing has been announced, but just if you follow the way the rotation is set up right now, his next start would be at the Phillies on Friday evening, August 22nd. And then his start after that would be at the New York Yankees on Wednesday afternoon, August 27th. So some stiff tests still to come. You will see. I mean, it's only 3 starts, so we're not going to, put him in Cooperstown just yet. But given how we didn't know what to expect when he got promoted from AAA Rochester, you can't call this anything but incredibly encouraging so far. And you look at this Nats rotation, 3/5 of the rotation right now in a really good spot with Mackenzie Gore back on track, Brad Lord doing what he's doing, and Cade Cavalli providing this encouragement. Jake Irvin, Mitchell Parker, a different story, but it's nice to be able to say that Gore, Lord, Cavalli, giving you reason for hope right now. And man, the Nats starting pitching in this series so far has just been awesome. I cannot say enough good things about it. I don't know how many people anticipated this, but Lord, Gore, Cavalli, tremendous stuff in this series so far.
And you see what a difference it makes. They were in position to win all 3 games because the starting pitching. They have not hit much in this series. They won 2 low-scoring games, 3-2 on Thursday and then 2-0 in this one. They're not hitting a lot. They only scored 2 runs in the loss on Friday, but they were in it. It was 2-2 going into the later innings, and we know what happened with the bullpen. If nothing else, if you get quality starting pitching, you're going to have a chance to win every single night. It does start with that. You can try to win by outslugging other teams, and some teams can pull that off. But for the most part, if you had to pick one or the other, you take pitching, especially starting pitching. It's been nice to see after a long wait to get to this point, because there have been plenty of times when the starters were nothing close to this, and they're digging them into the holes in the first inning on a regular basis. It's been really nice to see those 3 in particular come through here these last 3 days against, again, a very good team with some big-time hitters in their lineup.
Hey, Nats fans. After the exciting Nats game, have a listen to some relaxing solo piano music to unwind and help you go to sleep. I'm Tim Newmark, the composer of the Nats Chat theme song, and you can find my latest music on Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora, and anywhere you stream music. The song you're hearing now is called Improv in A-flat major, The End of the Road.
1 ball, 2 strikes, 2 out, runner at second, top of the 9th, Nationals leading 2-0. Ferrer to the belt, the kick, here it comes, swing and a miss, swing and a miss, he struck him out with a changeup, and a curly W's in the books. Cade Cavalli with his first win, 7 shutout innings, and Jose Ferrer does the rest. Our final score with a curly W in the books and a shutout to boot. The Washington Nationals 2, the Philadelphia Phillies nothing.
Part 2 of the Nats' very good pitching in this 2-0 win over the Phillies on Saturday was Jose A. Ferrer. The Nats in this game used just one reliever. That reliever, the ace reliever, Jose A. Ferrer, who so far is killing it as the successor to Kyle Finnegan as the team's closer. This is another development that, dare I say, is shocking, that Ferrer is doing this well. I mean, even if you're bullish on Ferrer, you figured there would be some hiccups, and at some point there probably will be. But he has been superb so far in this role. And Ferrer on Saturday, 2 scoreless innings for the save. Miguel Cairo again going to Ferrer to begin the top of the 8th. This is exactly what we saw in game 1 of this series. And Ferrer again came through. He in the top of the 8th in facing the Phillies numbers 9 through 2 spots in the lineup. Issued a perfect top of the 8th. And then Ferrer tossed a scoreless top of the 9th. And just like that, Jose A. Ferrer, a 2-inning, 6-out save. He has been tremendous. You know, we keep waiting for the bad outing to come. Like I said, it probably is going to come. But after Brad Lord and Cade Cavalli, Jose A. Ferrer, to me, that's like story number 3 right now in terms of the most encouraging Nationals at this moment in time. I think you have to put the starting pitchers ahead of the reliever, but the reliever is doing some really good work.
And this is now 3 times in 8 days he's gone more than 1 inning. Gotten at least 4 outs, in this case, getting 6 outs. So he's working overtime. This is not just a simple 1, 2, 3, 9th. The closer is being used quite a bit and being very successful doing it. The thing I loved most about this one, so he gets through the 8th really quick. I mean, it's 11 pitches. He blows away Trey Turner, 99. He gets Schwarber to ground out. And now you go to the 9th, and Cole Henry is warming in case he gets into trouble. And you figure, okay, well, he's definitely facing Harper, the left-handed hitter. And maybe if he doesn't get Harper out, that's going to be it, and in comes Henry. Well, he gets Harper on a ground ball. So he gets to stay in now. And he gives up the single to JT Realmuto with James Wood bobbling the ball and allowing Realmuto to reach second. And now all of a sudden, the tying run's at the plate. And we have seen in the past that Jose Ferrer if things start to go south, he at times has struggled to get it back on track, and it immediately falls apart on him. And so you're thinking, is this going to be that moment? And then what did he do? First pitch to Brandon Marsh, ground ball for the second out, and then goes right after Harrison Bader and strikes him out with a changeup to end the game. So there was no opportunity for the Phillies to feel like they had life again. In what could have been a shaky moment that things started to go downhill for him, he picked it up, got right back to work, and got out of it in a hurry and ended the game without any real serious threat of thinking he was going to blow it. That's maturity from a guy who hasn't in the past always shown an ability to do that. I really like not just the stuff he's showing, but the poise that he's showing in some of these situations that he's now being put in. That's what it takes to be a successful big league closer. You can have the best stuff in the world, but when you get into a jam, can you keep it together and get out of it with the whole stadium on their feet, knowing the game's on the line, you're the last man standing? That's what he's done, and he's especially did it in this game.
Third time in 4 outings, he goes more than 1 inning. What Miguel Cairo is doing, going to Ferrer in the highest moments in terms of leverage and not being afraid to use him for more than 1 inning and deploying him in these 8th innings. We know that this is very much an analytics-based thing to do. Do you think this is the influence of Mike DeBartolo, who we know is big on analytics, or do you think this is solely Miguel Cairo, that this is Cairo just going all in to try to win these games and trusting Jose A. Ferrer to get the job done?
I actually think it's mostly Cairo, and I say that because look at what he has to work with. You know, he knows how limited his quality options are there, and he knows Ferrer's the best that he's got. So he's got to use him in what he understands are the most significant moments, even if it comes before the 9th, and then using Henry potentially as the backup to him. But beyond those two, we know there just aren't other relievers that they really feel that they have faith and confidence in. Now, I will say this. It's worked here for the last week. You can't really use a guy like this all season long. He's going to break down. It's not going to go well. We've seen it in the past. Sean Doolittle, they had to do it with him when he was the only available option. Even Kyle Finnegan at times when he was the only one they had. It's why bullpen depth is ultimately so important in a 162-game season. You cannot lean on one guy to do that much for you that often. But right now, they've been in a position to do it. Ferrer's felt good enough, and Cairo has trusted him to do it. And I loved afterwards, he told Ferrer, okay, you got the next 2 days off no matter what. Come in wearing your pajamas tomorrow and just relax and enjoy these 2 days because you're not pitching again until the next series.
He's earned it for sure. And if the Nats have found themselves their closer moving forward, that's a tremendous development here. We'll see. But awesome stuff from Jose A. Ferrer. And I want to applaud Miguel Cairo. I think the way he's handling Ferrer has been really good. It's obviously working. And I think Cairo's bullpen management has been good. We saw this with Davey Martinez in 2019. When you have a really bad bullpen, you have to get creative. You have to be willing to think outside the box in order to navigate having that bad bullpen. And Cairo, at least so far, is doing a good job of, weaving through all of the potential pitfalls with this bullpen and actually getting pretty good production out of these guys, all things considered.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes desperate situations actually make things a little easier because you just say, hey, I got to try to win today's game and I can't worry about whatever is going to happen next. And that's kind of the spot they're in. Now, again, in the long run, it's going to probably bite you in the end, but there's not that much season left. And you would imagine that they're going to go through some stretches where they don't have that many consecutive opportunities to close out games like this. Ultimately, you're going to need a few other arms to show up and prove that they can somewhat be relied upon in those kind of situations. But talk about a big development. We kind of knew all along if Finnegan was to be dealt or anything happened with him, that Ferrer was the next man up. But until you're in that spot, you don't really know how you're going to handle it. And he's handled it superbly so far.
Well, and sometimes guys who you fear are not very good actually rise to the occasion when given greater responsibility. Maybe we're seeing that with Cade Cavalli, where he's being given this opportunity that he really didn't earn with his performance at AAA. But he's meeting the moment. He's rising to the occasion. And maybe the same thing is happening here with Jose A. Ferrer, where he has not had some lights out season. It's almost by default that he winds up as the closer. but he's rising to the occasion. He's embracing this, and he's doing really well with it. I think that's a possibility. We all get that. I think we need more of a sample size with each guy, but I do wonder about that. Sometimes in life, you see this. Like, you're not necessarily ready for it, but you get thrown into the deep end of the pool, and you end up doing pretty well. And maybe that's what's happening with Cavalli and Ferrer. Yeah,
you got no choice. Jump off the cliff and hope for the best, and it can bring out the best in you at times when it's all on me now. This team is entrusting me to do this. Let's go for broke. Let's show them what I got and hope to come out of it on top. And in both cases, the results have been outstanding so far.
Another 3-2 on the way, swung on, line drive into right center field. That's a base hit. It will go all the way to the wall. Cruz has scored. Behind him, here comes Brady House as James Wood coasts into second with a big 2-out, 2-run double. His 27th two-base hit of the year. RBI 79 and 80. And the Nationals are on top here first in the bottom of the 5th inning. A clutch 2-out, 2-run double. It's the Nationals 2 and the Phillies nothing.
So it's not often that James Wood has a big hit, and we leave that for late in the show, but such was the case with this 2-0 Nats win over the Phillies on Saturday. The Nats offense in this game was not good. Just 2 runs, just 7 hits, just 2 walks, just 1 for 5 with runners in scoring position. The 7 hits were a double and 6 singles. The Phillies starting pitcher was Taijuan Walker. He allowed 2 runs in 6 2/3 innings. The Phillies rotation is very good, as many of you listening know. But James Wood had the big hit in this game. He is an at-starting left fielder and number 1 batter, 1 for 4 with a 2-run double. Did commit that fielding error in the top of the 9th, but the 2-run double was impressive. A 2-run fifth for the Nats, a 2-out full count, 2-run double to the right center field gap for a 2-0 Nats lead. And that was basically it for the Nats offense in this game. There is not a lot to chew on in terms of the Nationals offense in this game. Just enough offense, but it comes from James Wood. That was an impressive at-bat, and it ended up being what the Nats needed to get the win.
A really good at-bat from him, and maybe not even his typical type of at-bat. He worked the count. It was 3-2. He had to foul off some tough pitches, and then he gets a sinker down in the zone and actually pulled it. A line drive to right center field. Not the typical James Wood drive it to the opposite field kind of ball. Big moment for him. And I loved that the 2 guys on base were Dylan Cruz and Brady House. And a subtle little thing that happened during the at-bat, but right prior to the hit. So before James Wood comes up to bat, it's Jacob Young with runners on the corners. And they give him the squeeze sign. And he can't get down the bunt. And he ultimately strikes out. A very disappointing at bat. And so now it all falls on James Wood's shoulders with runners on the corners and 2 outs now. Well, they picked off once or maybe even twice to first base. And once they did that, House took off on the next pitch, stole second really easily, as a matter of fact. And now all of a sudden it's second and third with 2 outs. And so that hit drives in both runs. And so I thought that was a subtle but important thing that happened. And another example of a couple young guys coming through for them. And James Wood is the guy you want up in that spot. So good at bat from him, good base running, everything that set it up. I loved that all these young, important players were such a big part of it. And let me just say, it was a walk and he didn't do anything else in the game and he was DH, so he didn't play the field at all. But I noted this afterwards. There's obviously a lot more to it than this, but the Nationals now have a .500 record this season when Dylan Cruz is in the lineup. It's 24-24. Okay. Yes, there are many other factors, probably more important than his presence in the lineup. But I did think that was notable that in a limited sample, they've been at their best when he's been on the field playing for them. So take that as you will.
Well, and interesting that Cruz gets the DH spot. It looks like we are getting a rotation now at DH as opposed to it's Josh Bell or basically nobody else as a DH. Like you're seeing Miguel Cairo mix and match in terms of who serves as a DH. Obviously, Nathaniel Lowe being DFA'd allows for Josh Bell to play more first base, but this is what a lot of teams do with the DH spot. It's not just one person, it's a bunch of different people. I'm really interested to see if next season, finally, the Nats do treat the DH spot in that way. They clearly have an opportunity to do that with this abundance of outfielders. We've talked about the Nats potentially doing that. They have not done it to any degree in recent years. They go into each season with essentially a designated hitter, whether it's a Nelson Cruz or a Josh Bell or whoever. I really think / hope the Nats go with that approach with the DH next year of leave it open and allow for it to be utilized by a variety of people. Because truth be told, unless you have like a Kyle Schwarber type who's just an outstanding hitter, I think you're best to use that DH with a variety of people as opposed to just committing to one person and making it so that that's his spot for the bulk of the season.
Well, the key is having enough positional depth that you have enough guys worthy of being in the lineup every day, and more so than positions on the field. So you hope that they're in a spot where they can, find a way to do that. I agree. And, what it also does is it allows, like right now, Dylan Cruz coming back off the IL, he can be in the lineup every day, but not take the full wear and tear of playing the field every day. James Wood, who, as we talked about, played over 162 consecutive games to begin his career before he finally got a day off. Well, here's a way to get him off his feet some and let him still contribute without having to play the field. And then the same thing for the other young guys as well. So it's a good strategy if you have the right personnel for it. I, too, will be very fascinated how they approach that this winter. I think there's certainly a case, if you want to keep all these young outfielders, there's a way to do it like this and still find enough at-bats for everyone and just make sure that you rotate them around and have a DH. You can have a different one every day if you want. There's nothing wrong with that. We see teams do it and have success doing it.
By the way, I mentioned Kyle Schwarber. I was doing some reading on Schwarber on Saturday. I'm sure a lot of people listening remember this, but it's easy to forget. So the Nats signed him as a free agent in January 2021. He was non-tendered by the Chicago Cubs. Isn't that something? Seeing what he has become, seeing what he's doing now, the Cubs non-tendered him. That is crazy to think about with the campaign that he is putting forth here.
And the Davey Martinez connection was big in bringing him here because he had him in Chicago when Davey was the bench coach, and they gave him a 1-year deal. I mean, if they had known what he was going to become, they probably would have given him a much bigger deal. But the idea was this was a bounce back candidate, and it's probably the best one that they've done over the years. And it worked out wonderfully, I suppose, for him, maybe not as well for the team. I mean, the real shame of it, as we discussed, is when he got hurt, he lost all his trade value as well. And so they did trade him, but they got a guy, Aldo Ramirez, who never made it anywhere and got hurt and I think is out of professional baseball now at this point. So it really didn't work out in the long run for the Nats, but it was a very savvy pickup from someone who knew him, knew what he could be. And I'm sure I remember Schwarber at the time kind of acknowledging, hey, this might be my last shot. I've got to prove that I can still be who I'm supposed to be. He did it. Wound up getting the huge deal with the Phillies, and now look at what he's done since, and he's going to get paid big time this winter because he's about to be a free agent again.
That's what's going to be so interesting. A guy who is so limited defensively in this current MLB usually does not get paid, but when you hit like he hits, if you're a front office, do you maybe look past the lack of defense, the lack of positional versatility, and say, hey, if this guy's going to give us 40 bombs and an OPS of 900 plus, we'll pay whatever it takes to get him?
Yeah, I think probably so. In addition to the fact is he is beloved in the clubhouse. He is a true leader. And that's not always the case for someone who only hits and doesn't play the field. He is extremely popular. And I'm sure any team with the Phillies at the top of the list, anybody with ideas of trying to win is going to want him on their team for that reason. And you take the risk and know that maybe 3-4 years down the road, it may finally dry up and he may not be that player anymore, but you'll take the next couple of years given what he's done this season.
Well, what he did in 2016 to me is still one of the most remarkable things I've ever seen in sports. He suffered a torn left ACL and LCL in April 2016 and then played in the 2016 World Series. Torn ACL and LCL. And he ends up playing just a few months later in that epic World Series win for the Cubs. It tells you a lot about the guy and his competitiveness and his toughness for sure. So a really good win for the Nats. A chance to take 3 out of 4 games against the Phillies. Raise your hand if you expected that, but tremendous. And we'll see what goes on here on Sunday. So Mitchell Parker will be the Nats starting pitcher. We know that he's in a rut. This is a Roku game, an 11:35 a.m. first pitch. Do you think Nats players, Phillies players like or dislike the 11:35 a.m. first pitch on a Sunday?
I'm going to say they dislike it. That's a tough turnaround. I mean, the game at least was quick on Saturday and the game was over at like 6:15. So that helps a little bit, but that early morning wake up and they don't take BP. They show up late. They just kind of show up, get your body ready to go, and then go play. That's a tough spot, I think, for all of them. I don't think anybody truly loves it. You like it at the end of the day when the game's over. You've got the rest of the day, do whatever you want. And then Monday is an off day, so they'll take that for sure. But that's a tough wake-up call in the morning and tough to get yourself going. Now, maybe that plays into Nat's hands. I mean, we know Mitchell Parker's first inning struggles. So God knows what this is going to be like. Maybe no sleep and a Phillies lineup that's tired as well plays to his benefit. I'll be very interested to see how that goes. You wouldn't think on paper it's a good matchup for them, but maybe this is a George Costanza opposite situation. Every instinct he's had has been wrong, so the opposite might be correct, and maybe this is the day that Mitchell Parker shoves.
It's worth a shot. Brunch with Mitchell Parker on Sunday. We'll see what goes down. Keibert Ruiz getting work at first base prior to the game on Friday. You got some intel on this. We wondered, is this a something or a nothing? It sounds like the latter is the case.
Yeah, it does sound like it's a nothing. I talked to both him and I asked Miguel Cairo about it as well. And it basically boils down to, he's not allowed to do any kind of contact drill. So he really can't do anything catching wise. I think he's caught some bullpens, but nothing in which a batter would be involved in the risk of a foul ball. But they want him to stay engaged as much as he can and to do so in a way that allows him just to be on a field doing baseball stuff and not think about the concussion, just react out there. And so this was a way to do it, to have him take some grounders at first base. Cairo brought him over there to do it. He said he liked it. He was comfortable with it, but both he and Miguel Cairo shot down like this is not us trying to say we're turning him in to a first baseman. You never say never down the road. And as we point out, we don't know who's calling the shots next year. And they may come in and say, yeah, hey, actually, this guy shouldn't be a catcher anymore. Let's put him at first base. But I think for the reasons I outlined the other day and based on their answers on this one, it's really just a chance for him to do something on the field to get himself engaged again without any maybe serious risk of anything else happening with his head.
You on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify can both rate the podcast and write reviews. 5-star ratings are very much appreciated. Positive reviews are very much appreciated. These things help us out a lot. Thank you very much for doing them. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. Nats Chat is on the radio Sunday morning 9 to 10 on ESPN Richmond, which is 106.1 FM in the Richmond, Virginia area, and Sunday morning 9 to 10 on Priority Sports Radio 94.1 in the Virginia Beach area. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat podcast.
3 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out, nobody on for Cavalli. Rocks and kicks, and here it comes. Swing and a miss. He blows him away. 100 miles an hour with an elevated fastball to strike out Bryce Harper. And the Phillies are done in the top of the first inning.